Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Chassidus in the morning. 15 minutes to change our lives. Kuntres of mind, starting Mammer Chaf Aleph. Mammer Chaf Aleph of Chaf Ches. So we're down to 7. We'll start by giving tzedakah. Gedula tzedakah shmekar says Hageula. Through giving tzedakah, bring us Mashiach closer. And we're going to focus on Noah bat Liora. Then Mitzvah Hashem, Noah bat Liora should be healthy and safe. And with all the soldiers and all the people that are captive, through our learning and through our applying what we're learning, should all have the impact that is needed to get them all home and safely and to take care of Hamas once and for all. Shav Mashiach. Okay, Mammer Chaf Aleph. So basically, Mammer Chaf Aleph contrasts what we said before. Before we were saying how according to Rav Yossi and Rav Nassan, they were saying that it's sort of every day we're judged and every hour. So we asked, so we said, if they're saying that it's every day and every moment we're judged, so what's the difference between that and Rosh Hashanah and Kippur? And clearly there is a judgment of Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, and they agree to that. So what's going on over here? And so we explained that just because of what happened in Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, it's still in a high level of Atzilus. And it didn't come down into this physical world, in the world of Asiya, in our physical world. And therefore, the judgment that we're having every day and every moment is it going to come, is it going to be expressed in this world? And then we also discussed, is it going to be in which three? And is it all three? Or is it a little bit in all three? Is it a lot in one? And the whole process, and that's sort of what the judgment is. Now we're going to ask the same question on the other hand. According to the Rabbanon, they don't say anything about the daily. So how does this process work? Because we're saying that between Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, it's all still in Atzilus. And that's that. So but what about daily? So is there any daily requirement? How does it come down from Atzilus into our physical world? So we're going to have a discussion today. Maybe we'll finish the Mammer. Maybe finish the parak. But today we're going to discuss that to understand more information, so we can understand the answer of how we're going to explain the Rabbanon. Let's see. Parak Aleph, page 293 in the green Kuntres of mind from Kos. Amnam, however, Vadash Rabbanon, according to the rabbis, Binyan Adinu Mishpat, Mizanes Shal Adam, Ksuvin Le Rosh Hashanah, that on Rosh Hashanah is set everything we're going to get, all that we need, V'chol Tzrachav Shal Adam, all the needs of a person, B'banei, U'bnei Beisei, and for their family, B'vanei Chayim Mizeinei, with the children, health and sustenance, which is Heim B'chlal HaMizeinis, that's B'chal sustenance, it's everything we need. So what's set, everything we need according to the rabbis, is on Rosh Hashanah. Usvira lahu, and they hold the Gzar Dinah Shel Adam, that the decree for the person Nechtam is signed up Yom Kippurim. Shama Gemara, as explained over there in the Gemara in Masechet Rosh Hashanah. And that's what it is. That's when it's all happening. Now, the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim Nigmar Prate Inyanei Ha'adam. The Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim, it finishes all the pratim, all the details of the person, al kol hashana, of all the year, l'chayim, oy v'chulu, for life, or whether the opposite, chas v'shalom, v'chein, and so too, l'chol, hamor yeshlo, everything's going to happen to us. So that's what's happening in Rosh Hashanah Kippur. It's setting up the year, what's going to happen, everything. So if so, l'fi zeh, yefshar, le'ma sha'chesed ha'elyon, haniktav lo b'Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim, lo nitztaya min yana ilm hazeh klal. So therefore, according to that, if everything is set on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, according to the Rabbanon, so we can't say that it's not set all the way down here to our physical world. We can't just say it's up there. But if we say that, so what's this being signed off? Also, what's this idea that it's being decreed, everything's going to happen to us? Because Ella we have to say the chesed that the chesed that's decreed, that's given to us on on that time period of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Nitan toyar tumuna mimash yumshach mizel le'il hazeh. Has to be a descriptive of how it's going to be in this physical world. Even though, why this is so interesting? Because before we said that what happens in Atzilus is too high for us, and it doesn't come down into this physical world. And that was according to Rav Yossi and Rav Nosson. That's how it worked out. It made sense. But here we're saying that according to Rabbanon, there's not daily judgment, so to speak. So therefore, none of this happens. So the question is, how is it coming down all the way down here? Move on. It's our physical world in comparison to Atzilus. And this is what we're going to discuss now. If so, so how is it possible that the chesed that comes from Malchus of Atzilus, which is the level that's happening on Rosh Hashanah Kippur, that we're drawing down to Malchus of Atzilus, how is it coming from Malchus of Atzilus? How can Malchus of Atzilus have any connection to our physical world? And this is sort of what we said before. On these 10 days, it's still in the level of Malchus of Atzilus, which is something not related to our physical world. And therefore, there's a daily or hourly judgment, which is bringing it down. And we said it goes to Bria, which is, it says there's the base in Shalmaila in Bria that decrees how much can it come down all the way down here. But here, according to the Rabbanan, that it's all happening on those 10 days. Those 10 days is still in Atzilus. You can't get water from Niagara Falls. Yeah, it has to have a whole process till it comes to your tap in your tap. Or electricity. You can't go to the power plant and try to plug in your plug and expect to get electricity. It's too powerful. And that's what Atzilus is. So how we say, according to the rabbis, that in Atzilus, which is what's happening to Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, is decreed everything's going to happen in our physical world. There has to be stages, we thought. So that's sort of the question. So now we're gonna learn some Kabbalah, and hopefully we have some exposure. So this will give you, and when you have some exposure, and the more you learn, the more you have clarity, the more you understand. And the simple understanding, the reason why you have to understand these things, besides to understand this exact question, God, without Chassidus and without Kabbalah, is, you could say, it's like one-dimensional. It's like just it's a picture. The more you learn about Hashem, and the more you learn about these different levels, sometimes people think it gets confusing. It only gets confusing when we don't understand where we're going. And understanding, the more you understand about it, the more God is meaningful, and you appreciate what does it mean, God. That's essentially what it is. And that's what we'll learn. That's what we're going to learn here. You can just say, look, there's God and there's me. But when you learn in Kabbalah, and Chassidus brings it out, and you have different levels, like Atzilus, Bria, Tzin, Asiyah, and then you have a L'maylim Atzilus. So all these things, it sort of broadens your understanding of God. It makes God a lot more, it's like a picture. It's like a stick figure of a person versus a portrait of a person, with all the little fine details. Before you learn Chassidus and Kabbalah, the God is like a stick figure. Yeah, there's hands, there's feet, and there's a body, but it's all a stick. The more you learn, the more you can paint a picture. And obviously, the experience that you have through looking at a stick figure versus a whole beautiful portrait you can't compare. And this is sort of what we're doing. The more you learn about these things, and the bigger the picture, the better the picture becomes of God. That's just some preface that we have to understand. So let's see. This will be understood. If we had answered this question, that what is happening, like how is it possible that that in the 10 days of tshuva, which is being set for the year, which is still in level Atzilus, so how is that able to come down to our physical world? Let's understand how that works. So this will be understood by what it says in Shiur. It says over there in Pashas Vayera, Jewish Maschil Pascal Yom, the Yesem Imash Ein Arich Asiya Lagavi Atzilus. So, like we explained in the previous classes, Atzilus and Asiya are from one extreme to the other opposite. Atzilus is a world that it's all godliness. The only thing that makes it different than God Himself, so to speak, is that it's a world. It's a world, but it's totally godliness. whereas Asiya is meaning our physical world, is totally opposite to that. The only is nothing connection, no connection outwardly in a revealed way to godliness at all. The whole world is just physical. Of course, God's inside, but what we see when we live in a reality of Asiya, we live in a reality of physicality. When you live in a reality of Atzilus, you live in a reality of godliness, that everything is just godliness. And that's the difference between the two. Now, so you can imagine how contrasted those two levels are. So even though they're so contrasted, but if you compare, so you have Asiya to Atzilus, which we're saying is incomparable. But it's more incomparable, Atzilus to Ein Sof, Hashem's infinite light from Atzilus Mahus, from his essence, which is way above and beyond our understanding. And this is what we're going to discuss, this idea. Behold, Hagam Shenish Baralel, even though we explained before in Mammer Test Parak Aleph, Atzilus moved on like we explained before, that Atzilus is totally separated from the low three worlds. Nevertheless, Hare Atzilus hu gamkein elam. V'yesh b'ya eses spheres b'chinas eres kelim. This is what's so interesting. Before we were talking about Atzilus, how it's so separate from the rest of the three worlds, lower worlds, in Mammer Yutes. Now we're showing that the other side of the coin, that it's true that Atzilus is so separate from all those other worlds. Like we said before, that Atzilus is just the only characteristic of a world is that it's a world, but it's all godliness. So even though we said that, but nevertheless, it's still a world. It has some relation. It's like a trillion in comparison to one. On one hand, you say it's incomparable. On the other hand, ultimately still number. There's still some relationship to it. And that's what we're saying. Even though the world of Atzilus is total godliness, nevertheless, it's called godliness and not God. When you say Elokah, means like God, it means Hashem's essence. So Elokus, automatically just the word godliness is by definition not God. And that's what we're saying. Aval Elokus, Peirush Getlech. What's Elokus? Is Getlech, godly. This is just an expression, an outward expression of a ray of God. That's what Atzilus is. Now, in comparison to us, Atzilus is, you can't imagine. It's so infinitely greater than us. But in the scheme, in the reality of the universe, Atzilus has a relationship to us. Because of this, Shayach Sham Esespheres Befrat Ba'Kelim Shein Bechinas Mitzius Spheres Chachma Chesed, and therefore, being that there is that relationship, and Atzilus is not God, but it's godliness, so Ras is able to have vessels and lights, Chachma Chesed. It has, like we said before, 1 million and a billion. It's on one hand you could say it's incomparable. On the other hand, they still have comparisons. They still have connections. They're both numbers, and so too in Atzilus. Even Atzilus is a world of all godliness, but it's a world. It has Chesed, it has Chachma. It has the same sort of characteristics as our world. Atzilus nimshachim esespheres b'ritz inasiya, and from Atzilus ultimately it draws down into the lower three worlds. B'derech ishtalshlus, in a way of a descent. A chain-like, orderly, organized descent. Ilav alul, of cause and effect. Sheyesh lahem erech v'shaychus elazeh. Cause and effect means there's a relationship. Cause and effect means from one leads to the other. So it shows that there's a relationship, even though they could be very distant, but there's still a relationship. Like we said before, 1 to a billion. On one hand, it's in contrast to each other. They're so far removed. Just imagine having $1 and having $1 billion in dollar bills. It'd be crazy amounts. But ultimately, the one can reach to a billion. The Sota was saying there's an ill of alu, which is a cause and effect, which means one comes from the other. We're in the middle a little bit of this, but time is up, so we'll continue tomorrow. And we're going to continue discussing this. And this is a very beautiful idea, a very simple, hopefully clear way of understanding these concepts. And the more you understand, the way I look at it, we start off with a stick figure, and the more we learn, and the more we understand these ideas, and it could take a few times to learn them or hear it in a few different locations, but you start to be able to paint the picture. And the more you paint the picture, the more the picture comes to life, and the more God becomes real. It's not just a stick figure, but it's like a three-dimensional and things like this. So, Mitzvah Hashem, by all of us, Hashem should be real. We should have an amazing day.